Hello and welcome to this anniversary special video. Now, it's been 1 year since I posted my first video on this channel, and I really just want to say thank you to all the viewers, and especially thank you to all the channel supporters, particularly the ones that are supporting me on Patreon. It's been a much bigger success than I had expected it to be. Now, as regular viewers of this channel know, I started this channel to focus on Sudoku variant puzzles that are solvable by essentially the enthusiasts as opposed to the community experts. Now, looking at just the stats here, in the last 3 months alone, there's been over 15,000 unique viewers of this channel. So I know that many of you out there are actually enjoying the content, and as long as there are you guys that are supporting the channel and you're regularly viewing it, I'm just going to keep going. 15,000 unique viewers. You take a look at the subscribers, we're down at like 1,600, 1,700 at the time of recording. I don't know about what the remaining 90% of you, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. I'm sure as you watch this particular video, I'm pretty confident you're going to feel that I have earned it. Now, for this video, you may remember that I ran a community poll a bit of a while ago, about a month ago from this particular anniversary. And by a landslide, what you guys wanted more than anything else was a behind the scenes special. So that took 60% of the votes as of the time of the recording. And then a distant second was actually a live stream solve at 24%. And then there was a bunch of other options that, also ran. We're just going to call it that. Really wasn't even close. So to focus on behind the scene and to make this feel special, it's not just going to be about image creations. And so that you can jump around between what is actually something that you're going to be interested in. There will be, as always, a few chapters down below for you to be able to jump to the section that you are most interested in. Now, we're going to start a little bit by talking about the brand, because this is where I'm going to talk a little bit about the colors, the styles, the fonts. Having all of that agreed and sort of almost like defined up front helps me think around essentially what kind of thumbnails am I particularly going to be creating. Then I'm going to talk about the favorite section, I suspect, which is the thumbnails. So probably the most popular one. We're going to scour the interweb for today's puzzle, and then we're going to basically, based on this particular puzzle and its title, try and create a thumbnail together. Then I'm going to touch a little bit about the music and videos that I actually also use as part of the channel. So what I'm going to do is just very briefly open up one of my existing music kind of scores, show you a little bit about what happens behind the scenes, talk a little bit about some of the video animations that I do. I'm probably going to trim this down a bit because, let's be honest here, I think I'm a bumbling amateur at best when it comes to music, so this could be very dull if you spend quite a bit of time just watching me messing around. Now, lastly, this is what the whole channel is exactly about, which is solving the puzzles. So after, of course, we've selected the puzzle that we're going to solve today, I'm going to solve it as is traditional and have something that is a quick reference for you guys if you get stuck at any point. Now, to keep all of this content somewhat decent in length, this video is fairly scripted, and I'm expecting I'm going to have to edit it quite a bit to keep it down to a reasonable section, particularly when we actually talk a little bit about the music. So let's crack on. Let's take a look at the branding first and see what that looks like. Right. You're going to recognize a lot of these colors and images. So when I first started the channel, I basically thought of what is the name of this? And I was essentially looking for something that goes with Sudoku. And the fact that we are kind of solving puzzles. I don't want to make it kind of a reference to another famous channel that does this, but cracking things. But I really want to stick with the idea of S. So Sudoku Sleuth kind of rolled off the tongue as the most obvious example of what I meant by the title for this channel. Now, what I was really going for is something that does feel like a detective channel. So it had to be somewhat dark, think like film noir. I know the music is nowhere near that because I don't exactly like that kind of music, but it had to be dark. There had to be a little bit of fun to it. And if you haven't already guessed, blue is my favorite color. So there was always going to be a bunch of blues, not just some dark items. And then just a bunch of fonts and iconography to basically just bring it a little bit to life. Now, what I used as part of sort of generating all of this is just created like a standard background that you've seen me use probably a few months ago when I did almost like a small rebrand of the channel. So you're probably going to recognize this image, which is usually on the right-hand side of all of the solves. Normally the video is there kind of where that gray box is. And on the left-hand side of this image is normally the actual puzzle that I'm solving. But you can see I'm just using a few icons, you know, the same fonts and style and colors to basically just give this channel this identity that hopefully you guys are going to regularly recognize. But let's be honest, all of these colors, all of these fonts is not really what is probably most recognizable. I think the thumbnails, it is what is most recognizable for the regular viewers of this channel. So let's take a look at what we're going to look for today and actually try and create live a quick image together. Now, to make this easier first things we should do is just think about what we're going to do, what kind of puzzle we're going to look for. Although it is a weekend puzzle, I'm going to keep this, to try and keep the video length a bit short, I am going to deliberately say the difficulty is 1 star. And then I was torn between constructors. I was basically thinking it's kind of like poetic to have the first video of the channel being from Florian Wortmann, and then having the anniversary special being from Florian. Now, the other constructor, to be fair to him, that I featured probably the most heavily on the channel was Will Power. So the thought crossed my mind about using Will as the solve for today's anniversary special, but just kind of the symmetry of it all, sorry, I'm a sucker for these things, meant that I couldn't help myself but look for a Florian Wortmann puzzle. Let's have a look what he has in store. Not many 1-star difficulty rated puzzles. Florian, please don't make this difficult. 2? 2 it is. Okay. So you can see that some of these things I've clicked on before. And in particular, I am thinking of taking a look at the Snooker Table 2023. Now, a few weeks ago, I'm going to say, I featured another Snooker Table one from, I think it was Damien. And when I particularly so I mean, like I went through all of his back catalog. There's quite a few things in here. But what I wanted for is something that's highly rated, 97%. You don't really get much higher than that. 2-star was, I mean, we've looked at all the 1-star, we've sold all of them. And obviously the Colorado series, I've really been on top of all of these. So, Snooker Table it was. And let me just bring this up in full screen so that you guys can see it. Let me just check that you can see it in full. Kind of. I'm going to move this screen a little bit. I'm going to move this screen a little bit. Let's do that. And what I liked very much about today's kind of puzzle is you can see very much the reference to snooker. So you've got essentially the pockets in the corners, the pockets in the middle. I say the corners, I mean the corners. There's 4 of them clearly, and then the 2 in the middle. So that's the 6 pockets. Then you have the cue ball with a 1. Then you have essentially the colors as well of the various balls that are in play. Brown, yellow, green, blue, pink, and black. And forget this rambat. And then the break, kind of the maximum break of 147. So that just looks fantastic and absolutely just a clear Florian creation. Let me put it this way. So let's take a look at how we're going to create this thumbnail, and I'm going to introduce you to the main tool that I now use. Let me bring this up on the screen. Hopefully it's going to be lined up correctly, and yes, it is. So if you haven't guessed already, and I do have, I've mentioned it a few times, and so the regulars should know this already, that I do use some artificial intelligence for creating some of those images. What you have in here is essentially one of those artificial intelligence. You can see some of the recent kind of ones that I've created. Let me just show you off some of its capabilities. Smile, you're on camera. I am showing off how we can create a thumbnail together. Let it think about this for a while. Cool. If you want to be any more assistance or specific with thumbnails, feel free to let me know. Let's make it perfect. Fantastic. Right. Let's tell the viewers a little bit about what you already know about Sleuth. And you can see I've sort of developed this kind of knowledge and creation over quite a bit of time. So I built this character with this artificial intelligence over a period. And you can see he already knows that it's Sleuth. He's a detective in his 30s. I'm not in my 30s, by the way, just in case you're guessing that. He's got short, wavy hair, handsome masculine features, brown eyes, and is well known for wearing his signature hat. In terms of personality, Sleuth is a keen observer, intelligent, and determined. I'm just paying compliments to myself at this point. I may as well. It is an anniversary special. It's all about me. He's often depicted solving mysteries and facing various challenges. And the themes, versatile, featured in a variety of settings. You know, you have seen Sleuth travel across times, dimensions, galaxies, who knows. And even sailing on the high seas through foggy forests, chess tournaments, caves, treasure-filled caves, etc., etc. Now, I don't know if this is going to get me into any kind of issue here. All the thumbnails featuring Sleuth are created in a particular style. I'm not going to name it. Highly detailed animation. It uses some camera effects. We're going to talk about that a little bit when we're trying to create each scene. But you can see that over the course of this year, that I've basically developed this character to the point where this artificial intelligence that I'm using to help create this content knows it quite well, which is absolutely incredible. Let's go with that. So Sleuth. So let's go with Sleuth is once again at a snooker tournament. He's just about to break. If you remember looking at Florian's grid, I don't know why I need to do that. I could just bring it up again. You can see that the Q ball is at the beginning. No red balls. So in a way, it could have been that it's all been pocketed and the white ball is at the top. But I'm going to assume that it's basically right the start of the game. So Sleuth is just about to break into his game. He's lining up his position. Let me just say, help create another thumb. Oh, hang on. I did hit the home button. That didn't do anything. So help create another thumbnail, please. This time, Sleuth is once again at the snooker tournament. He's just about to break into his game. He's lining up his position and taking aim. He's wearing his signature hat. What else do we want to say? So to show off the fact that it is a bit of a tournament, I mean, it is literally in the title. It is in the title, isn't it? What was the title of this puzzle? Snooker Table 2023. So I think it is very much in the title here. Everything okay? Okay. He's wearing his signature hat. Now, to try and actually show you essentially like the audience, the background, we've got to sort of give it a little bit of a frame of reference. So use a wide shot camera angle to show off the audience in the background. Standard aspect ratio. Sometimes it confuses the fact that when I say wide, it just goes for a wide thumbnail. That's not what I'm after. Use vibrant colors, high amount of detail. Bokeh, which is essentially when the camera lens aperture is short enough that you can actually keep the subject in focus, and then the rest of the background essentially blurred, because you don't really want the audience to be a distraction. Bokeh to blur the background and keep the subject, Sleuth, in focus. Use this company's animation style for the thumbnail. And it'll take a couple of minutes to basically bring this up. Now, I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, this is going to be good enough. It'll probably create something that is immediately usable, and then I'm going to be able to pop it straight into kind of like a template that I built over time to actually add and use that image. You can see the whole thing that I'm trying to do here. That's pretty good. Pretty good. It's not quite the wide shot that I was aiming for, but pretty good. If I really wanted to, I can sort of tweak it a little bit, but I'm going to go with it in the interest of keeping this recording a bit short. What am I going to say else about this? Let me think. What was I going to mention? Pardon me, I've lost my train of thought. Well, it's gone. Right, so we've got kind of the beginning of a thumbnail. Let's just basically create it very briefly and jump into the next application that will help me to do so. So I'm just going to bring this up, which is my photo editor, where essentially I do all of my, you guessed it, all of the photo editing. First, let me just make sure I have downloaded it. That's kind of step one. And take a screenshot as well of the actual grid that we're going to be playing. So let me do all of that quickly. This hopefully will be just, on the editing floor as opposed to you guys having to watch me do kind of not particularly exciting things off camera. Right, affinity photo. So, new photo from a template. Let me just make sure that is on the screen. Is that visible? That's not visible. How am I going to make this visible? No, that's window capture, not application capture. Right, kind of. Let's do that now. Yeah, that's visible. So essentially, over the kind of past year, I've created a template of basically this brand. You'll see, for example, to make this easy, the whole point of what I'm trying to do, that's what I was trying to say, is to essentially make this as easy as possible to put out new content. So you can see, for example, I've already got the title block placed, kind of the original icon that I've sort of created. If you actually even look at the colors, let me just draw something. And I pick kind of what color is available to it. All of the kind of standard Sudoku Sleuth colors are all already placed. So I really have to put in quite a little bit of effort to actually put out new content. Now, let me just place this. This is kind of my normal stuff. And then not sure why it froze there for a second. You're with me? Don't know what's happening here or why it's not letting me select it. So I'm going to hit the pause button, troubleshoot this offline, and it'll be just a few seconds for you guys. All right, sorry about that. I don't know why it wasn't working, but I mean, it's back now. So I've just basically just paused it, and then I tried to place the images and it worked. You can see I've even sort of created references and to make sure that I can actually resize things into place. One request I've had in the past is please don't have the title, and you can see immediately I can sort of drop it, and you've got these sort of kind of breakpoints that kind of come up, the green to show me it's in the middle, the red to basically show me it's the right position, trying to make sure that it is as consistent as I possibly can. And this was, I really should remember this now. It's unbelievable that I have to keep checking. Snooker Table 2023. The font is a bit too big. Snooker Table 2023. Change the font size. This is probably 98 to fit it all in. Yeah, I can go bigger. I can afford to go quite a bit bigger. 108. Essentially, I aim to go as big as I can without it overflowing outside of this box, just to make it a bit more legible. And that's in the center, and we're done. So I'll save this offline. I'll kind of upload it, etc. I don't think you guys need to show this bit. But let's crack on with the music and video. Right, so onto the music. And if you're wondering what just happened, it's me re-recording something that I wasn't particularly happy with. So excuse what is clearly a continuity problem here with a different t-shirt, different hairstyle, lighting, everything. But I just wanted to touch a little bit on the music itself. And I appreciate that for this particular channel, it should be really more like jazz, film noir. That's really should be the style of the music, but it's not one that I particularly enjoy. So personally, I tend to much prefer orchestral pieces, typical of film scores, not necessarily even the hybrid modern ones that you may hear in some of the movies. So this is something that some of you are going to be familiar from the outro that I've played a few times. And what I wanted to do for this video is to walk you through a little bit around how I compose this, then turn it into a piece of music, and then finally include it into some of the outro videos, for example. If I quickly just walk you through the skeleton, and I appreciate this is not going to be easy to see all of it at once unless I zoom in, so let me do that first. If you're not familiar with music notation, so actually let's just take a step back for a second. If you're trying to compose music on a computer, there are probably a handful of ways of doing it. One way for certain is actually using what is called a notation software, such as the one that I'm using here. And if you are familiar with music notation, this is a good way of essentially writing down a few ideas, and it gives you fantastic feedback as well. You can actually play it back at the same time and essentially hear what you're working on. And you can do it within time, etc. The other major way of doing it would be to use what's a DAW or a digital audio workstation, and it can give you a lot more finer control around how you're playing every specific note. This, what I'm doing here, is a better way of just writing down a bunch of sketches very quickly and potentially to be able to get it to the hands of musicians down the line for a recording session, for example. Now, couple of, if I spend a minute just making sure you can follow what's on the screen, and apologies for the musicians amongst you that I end up just butchering this, so please be patient. You can see here at the top that essentially I don't have what's called a key signature. This one is called C major. The way to almost just interpret this is, if you're familiar with the piano, this particular piece is written very nearly exclusively in the white keys on a piano keyboard. I'm not actually using the C major key here. It's F Lydian. We don't really need to get into modes in this conversation, but it just gives you an idea that I am keeping something that's relatively simple, staying within those keys. I'm not drifting outside it, and it keeps it simple, maybe easy to develop the idea, but at the same time harmonically not very interesting. Because of the style of music that I write, you can see that we have almost like groups or sections here of woodwind instruments, flutes, oboes, clarinets, bassoons, then brass instruments, French horns, trumpets, trombones, bass trombone, tuba, percussion, timpani, glockenspiel, vibraphone, marimba, and harp. More percussion that's atonal, like clash cymbal, mark tree, piatti really, mark tree, snare drums, and bass drum. Piano also belongs in that group. And then lastly, the string sections at the bottom with violins, viola, cello, and the contrabass. Now, what I prefer about using this type of software is, in essence, it allows me to just very quickly, visually, if you zoom out and basically just have a look around, you can very clearly see that my string section is very busy and that I'm not using the rest that much. But then you can, as you sort of fill out the song over time and add just a bit more activity, you can see that it gets busier, more things basically on the screen. And you can do things like play around with it. So for example, I'm starting off with violins where the melody is playing. So if I just, no, I'm not going to play it just yet, but you can have something like a melody, and then I jump back to a counter melody with the French horns. But then to avoid some kind of repetition and having different timbres that give you the same thing, then I have the melody dropping down. When we get to some of the more moodier parts of it, when I jump into a different key here in E minor, then I'm sort of playing again the counter melody on something a bit moodier like a trombone. but then trying to go for something sparkly and light air here at the top with the flutes and the woodwinds and the oboes for the counter melody, just again to have something that's a little bit varied from the flute before sort of wrapping up at the end. Essentially, there is a bunch of sections in here. This section was in one particular set of chords, then another set of chords, and it's almost like in fours. So each one of these is a bar. I have 4, then I pick up the pace, another 4, then I change chords, another 4, change chords again, another 4. You can see here I'm sort of in C/G or C over a root of G. Then I change again at the end for a wrap up. So let's have a quick listen. Anything else I want to mention? Probably not. I mean, maybe worthwhile just pointing out, if you're not familiar with some of these things, that typically there are almost like common chord shapes when you look at them. So this is sort of like a major, for example, and it's, you know, the distances between them and the differences between the lines really tells you a lot about the harmony as well as in there. Let's have a listen, and then you're going to see yet another cut as we talk about the actual videos that they're attached to. You know, so a few things I kind of noticed there. The trombones were very quiet. I would probably fix the dynamics here. The oboes were quite a bit louder compared to the flutes. I would again fix the dynamics there. So tweaks that I would make and just keep iterating over time. Obviously, as well as trying to make it not so repetitive. See you guys for the next bit. So I've had the question occasionally around, how do I create some of these videos and kind of this kind of element of that. Now, I do use kind of an open source library from this fantastic, absolutely fantastic scientific educator called Three Blue, One Brown. Check out his channel if you've never seen it before and just be amazed. But it's essentially an open source software called Manim that allows you to basically, using just a little bit of code, create animations. So this particular animation was essentially something that I did for one of my introductory videos. In the end, I ended up dropping this over time. You can see things like, what does a cell look like, the colors, what does a box look like? So essentially all of the different cells in there, a whole Sudoku grid. Subscribe to Sudoku Sleuth in the next video. A little bit of the encrypted and hidden messages that I have in here that essentially you can see in this video. Let me just check. It is kind of on the screen. And when it's obviously coupled with a little bit of music, yeah, it can be a little bit of fun. And it was one of the outro videos for a while before. It's a little bit off screen, but essentially this was 22 seconds. When you're using YouTube, having 20 to 25 seconds is sort of the sweet spot for an outro. It just lines up with all of the various cards, etc. Super. That's a little bit of behind the scenes. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. And I'm going to edit this video and then crack on with the solve. See you soon. Right, on to the main event. Now we're going to be solving Snooker Table 2023. Well, you've seen a selection process. There isn't really much of an intro. Let's see if Sleuth can have a break of 147, shall we? So, on to the puzzle itself. Snooker Table 2023 from Florian, of course. Now we have cells connected by a color dot contain digits with the indicated difference. So essentially these are like Kropke dots, but rather than necessarily being, and it's difference dots, so they're white dots, but rather than necessarily always being a difference of one as in consecutive, There could be a difference of 2, 4, 3, 5, 6, 4. Now this one I don't think is a black crop dot. From memory, it's visible on the original. Yeah, it looks like a 7. It's just invisible in my color scheme for whatever reason here. So this one, do not treat it like a black crop dot where essentially one cell is double the other. It is still a difference and it's 7. Of course, I didn't mention the first rule. It's not written, but it is on the website. Normal Sudoku rules apply. Place the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, every column, and every 3 by 3 box. 3 by 3 box, I can select one. Then we have the sum of the digits along the grey line is equal to the sum of the digits in the circles at either end of the line. So clearly it's referring to these grey lines. And then my guess is there is a grey line under this Wortmann as well. So what I think this is saying, the sum of the digits along a grey line, not each grey line, along a grey line is equal to the sum of the digits in the circles at either end of the line. Right. So let me just make up an example. If this is 2, 3, 4, they're adding up to 9. Means that these cells have to add up to 9 together. So for example, that could be 1, 8. That'd be one valid way of pencil marking this. And these two cells would come up to a value which has to equal whatever these 3 cells is equal to. So this is very different. We've not seen this before. I've not seen this before. A clue outside the grid is the sum of the digits along the indicated diagonal. That means these 3 cells have to add up to 7. That clearly can't be an 8. These 2 cells have to add up to 14. That could be, for example, 6 and 8. Would be a valid way of actually getting to 14. And then last but not least, we've got each purple line contains a sequence of consecutive digits, which can be in any order. If this cell here was a 2, this, for example, could be 3, 4, could be in any order, so that could be 4, 2, and 3. I could also have 1, 2, and 3, but what I couldn't have is 2, 3, 5. They're no longer consecutive. That breaks the Wortmann rule set. So that's all the rules we have for today. Link will be in the description down below for you to play along. Let's see if we can conquer this snooker table. Restart the clock, see how I get on. Right, this part is obvious. This is 1, 2, 4. 7 in 3 cells, 3 unique cells specifically, has to be made up of 1, 2, 4. No other way of getting there. And now we're in a bit of a dilemma, if I'm honest. Don't know where to go next. Probably this line here. Yeah, you see, if this is 1, no, see, difference of 7. Difference of 7 is very restricted. This is either 1, 8 pair or a 2, 9 pair. No other ways of doing this. So that's much better. 1, 8, 2, 9. Right, let's think about this. So if this is a 1, this would be 2, 3. This adds up to 6. And this couldn't be 1 or 2 because 1, 2, 3 is here. I would have to have a 4 in here. This would have to be a 2, breaking the Sudoku rules to allow these 2 to add up to 6, similar to the 1, 2, 3. So 1 doesn't work. 9, I'm guessing, is too big because, yeah, 9, 8, and 7. In fact, probably 8 doesn't work. 9, 8, and 7 is 24. I'm not going to be able to get to 4 and a 20 in this one. That's impossible. Even if I minimize this with the 8, that would be, let me just think through this. 8, 7, 6, that's 21. Again, 4 plus a double-digit number is not going to happen. So that is 2, which gets me to 9 to be 7 away. That removes 2 from here. These have to be consecutive. So my options are 1, 3, which would put a 4 and 2, which we discovered already doesn't work. The other option is 3, 4. So that gets me to 9. That gets me to a 1. That gets me to an 8. Lovely. These 2 cells are no longer 1 either. Right, the 14, this is 6, 8, or 5, 9 in 2 cells. The 9 can only be in here, and that's the 5. The 8 can only be in there, and that's the 6. Actually, this line now is interesting because this is a 1. This is extremely small. Even if I maximize this, that's a 9. So the maximum I can make this is 10. And in fact, it has to be a 9. Because in 3 unique cells, if I don't have a 1, and I don't, I've already placed it in the column, then the minimum I can make is 9 with 2, 3, 4. But 2 and 4 are not available. I'd have to have a double 3 and then 2 and 4 in here. So this is 10 without the 1, which would make this 2, 3, 5. The 2 is not on these 2 cells, so that's 2. This is 3, 5. This is 9. And we're off and racing. 3, 5 in here would make this 8, would make this 6, would make these 7 and 9. Maybe the 6 is worthwhile. Yeah, once 2 and 9 is gone, this is probably very restricted. Yeah, it's very restricted. It's probably can only be 1 and 7. You see, because it's either 1, 7, 2, 8, or 3, 9 to be 6 away. And I've used the 2 and I've used the 9, so these 2 are gone. So this is 1, 7. Then I have to bounce back by adding a 5. If it's a 1, it's a 6. If it's a 7, it's a 2, which is not allowed. So this is a 1. This is a 6. This is a 7. Fantastic. Let me just keep using these snooker balls just to sort of make some progress here. 3, 4, 5, 8. 3, 4, 5, 8 is the remaining digits. I need 2 that are 4 apart. Well, it's not. Well, I mean, it's got to be the 8, and then it's the 4. So not 3, 5. I can type, and not 4, 8. This is 3, 5. Ramban next. Maybe Ramban next. Let me think about this. So if it's 3, I can't do 3, 4, 5 because that would be 5. I also couldn't do 1, 2, 3. Let me show you. If this is 1, 2, whatever this cell is, whether it's 1, that would have to be 2 and it's not available. If it's 2, this would have to be 1 or 3 and both are not available. So this can't be 1, 2, 3, but it could be 2, 3, 4. And specifically, the 4 would have to be here because the 3, 5 are not available for this essentially white Kropke dot. This would have to be a 2. This would have to be a 1. Okay. Now, if this is a 5, so 3, 4, 5 is not available because that would be the 3. 4, 5, 6 could be. That would be the 5. That would be a 3. The 4 still can't be here because of the 3, 5. So the 4 would be here, and this would be a 6. And because the 5 is gone, this would be 7. And then 5, 6, 7. 5, 6, 7 is 18, which doesn't work because it would require a double 9. So this is very restricted. This is a 4. And then what I'm adding to is either 2, 3, 4, which would be a 9 between these 2 cells, or 4, 5, 6, which would be 15 between these 2 cells. Quite a few options still. That is not the way forward. Actually, one way forward, I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier. So the remaining digits in here, it's going to be very obvious, is 4, 6, 7, and 8. Now I need 3 of them on here to equal whatever's on the corners. Now, if this is not an 8, I think this is going to break. Because the minimum that I could make this would be 4, 6, 8, which is 18, and that is too big. So the 8 is in here, and this is now 4, 6, 7, and yes, it does add up to 17, which is what 9 and 8 add up to, and 4, 6 plus 7 is again 17. So we're already at 8. So if this is 2, 3, 4, this would be 1. If this is 4, 5, 6, this would be 7 to get to 15. Sorry, 4, 3, 4. 4, come on, Sleuth. 8, 4, not 4. These cells, let me just think about them for a second. So the remaining cell is another 1, 7, another 2, 6, and a 9. Can I put a 9 on either of these cells? Yes, I can. What about 7? 7 would go 9 or 5, it works. 7 would have to go to 4, so 7 doesn't work here. 1 doesn't work here because it would have to go to a 4. So 1 and 7, 1 can't be -3, it would have to add up 3 to go to 4, which is not available. 7 can't go to 10, it will be -3, so it would go to 4. So 1, 7 is not here. So this is 2, 6, but sadly, and 9 as well. If it's 2, that would be 5, that's available. If this is 6, that would be 9 because 3 is not available. And 9 would get me to 6. No, it wouldn't. 9 is not available. 2, 6 pair. That's fantastic. Right, these are now 179s. Let's see if we can eliminate any options. 1 would be 3. Available 7 could be 5 or 9 available. And the 9 could be 7 also available. Not the way forward. Maybe some Sudoku, no 2s here. So this is a 2. Then I have a 2 up here. See 4s, 2s, and 3s. I mean, they're not very restrictive. I feel like I'm going to have to do something silly like explore all of the possible options for this cell. Not a fan. It could be 1, it can't be 2, it could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5, it can't be 6, it could be 7, it's not 8, and it's not 9. And obviously I did say it's not 6. There's still a lot of options. 7 and 1 doesn't work. If that's 7, that's 1. I get to 8, and I need 3 unique cells without the 1 to get to 8, and that's impossible. 2, 3, 4 would be the minimum, then that gets me to 9. So this can't be 7 because that would be 1. Same logic. This can't be 1 because that would be 7, and I repeat the problem, just reversed. So it's 3, 4, or 5 now. I think this can't be 1 anymore. Even if I maximize this 1 and 5, that's already at 6. I'm not going to get to 6 with, it can only be done with 1, 2, 3, and I've already used the 1. So that has to be 7, which makes this a 5, which makes this a 6, which makes this a 7, which makes this a 3, which makes these not 7s, which also makes this not 5 or, in fact, 1, 3. Because the 9 would have to have a 7, which is not available. So 9 is gone, 7 is gone, 5 is gone. It is only 3 with a 1 and a 9 and a 2 and a 5. Lovely. Is that helpful at all? I suspect we're going to have to do a bit of maths to figure out what this is. There might be a Sudoku way of doing this. I mean, I can place a 9, so let's do that. And then 2, 7, and 8. This is 2 or 8. In fact, this is just 2. And now it's a 7, 8 pair. Actually hasn't eliminated any options in here. Not 7. This one is probably reasonably restricted, but again, it doesn't really see this cell, so kind of pointless at the moment. Right, let's do some maths. So what the rules are basically saying is that this cell plus this cell is equal to these three. And then this cell plus this cell is equal to these three. So let's call this A, let's call this B, and let's call this C. And we've got to use the fact that this adds up to 45 somehow. So these two is equal to all of these. Okay, so that covers this. And then these two is equal to all of these. So I think what it's saying is an A plus 2B plus C has to equal to 45. And obviously it's 45 because if you add up the digits in a Sudoku 1 through to 9, 1 plus 2 plus 3, you get to 45. So we're saying, no, but it's doubled. It's 2A, 2C, and 3B. Because essentially, I need to add the circles back in. So yes, these cells are equal to A, 2B, and C. But I can't forget about the circles themselves. I'm actually adding them again. So it's 2A, 2C, and 3B. Right. So 2A and 2C, that's 15, that's 30. And then this cell has to equal to 15 when you multiply it by 3. 3B is equal to 15, which can only be a 5. I hope that sort of made sense. I don't know if that's the intended path. And then we have a very tricky one. We need to place a 9 somewhere. Now, if the 9 is on this side, it would have to be joined with 1 and 3 to essentially make this add up to 13. If the 9 is on this side, it would have to be joined with 1 and 2 to get to 12. So you see, once you place a 9 on either leg of this kind of arrow, it forces a lot of things. 1, 2, 9, and then it would leave whatever this is, 4, 6, and 3. So it would leave 3, 4, 6. And then if this is 1, 3, 9, this would leave, again, the 4 and 6 are not here, but it's 2. So 2, 4, 6. Did I make any progress here? I don't think I did. This is 2, 4, 6, and this is 3, 4, 6. So these are the options to get to 13. These are the options to get to 12. Now the 1 is always up here. No, the 2 is always up here. The 3 is always down here. And then you have 2 digits that add up to 10, 1 and 9 or 4 or 6, and you basically swap them around depending on where you place the 9. Okay, that makes sense. Can I restrict the 9 at all? I think I can. This is not 7, it's 9. This is 9, sorry, it's 7 now. These two cells are 3, 5. 9, at least for this leg, it's not here, it's not there, and it's not there. So this is 1, 2, 9. This is 1, 2. That's a 9. This is 1, 2. I mean, I still need the corner pencil mark here, just not there. And then this is 3, 4, 6. I'm just going to double check everything again. 3, 4, and 6 is 13, which is what 8 and 5 is. 1, 2, and 9 is 12, which is what 7 and 5 are. Excellent. 3, it's not in here. That's a 3. 1 and 2 are not resolved. Hasn't exactly opened things up, has it? These two cells maybe? I need an 8, which is not here. And then I need a 5, which gives me a 3 and then a 5. Then I need 1 and 6, also not resolved. 7 and 8 not resolved, 1 and 2 not resolved. So we actually are back to these probably. All that work, huh? No 9s, no 2s. So this is starting to get restricted a bit. So I could do 1. No, I can't even do 5. So 1 is not available. 2 is not available. 3 is not available. This can only be 4, 8 because 9s are not available, and that would have to join with a 5 anyway. So this is forced, amazingly. What about this one? That's a bit more open, isn't it? This row is essentially 1, 2, 3, 9. And the 9 is on this side. And this is 1, 2, 3, which includes a 3 because this is 1, 2. I've got a triplet. So this is 1, 2, 9. The 9, in fact, is just placed. That's a 9. So eliminate some options. Right, 9, 8, and 7 are all gone. So this is quite low. I could use 1 and 5. I could use 2 and 6. And then that's it because 7, 8, and 9 are gone. So it's actually quite limited. Gives me a 1, 2 pair. These are not 2s. I had to have a 2 in here. The 2, come on, Sleuth. That's 1. That's 5. That's 2. That's 1. These are not 1s. That's a 2, 3 pair. That is the 1. Right, we're back on track. No, no, no. I mean, I have used all the variants at this point, so I think it's just Sudoku now to finish. I say just Sudoku. I mean, sometimes I clearly struggle with it. That's an 8. 4 can only be now in here. That's a 4. 3, 4, and 5, they're all placed in this box, so not very useful. 1 is not in these cells. In fact, none of these cells are 1. That's the only place for a 1. 9 has to be up here with something. In fact, 8 in row 4, if I can select it, well, it's not these 2 cells. That's the only place for an 8. Then essentially in here I have 6, 7, 9 with a definite 9. Then this would have to be 6 or 7. Essentially the loose digit. 1s, no, I can't place. I can't place a lot of things. What about these 2 cells, 5 and 6? Yeah, that's 5. That's 5, that's 6. That's not 6. 6, remove 6 from here. 5, more important, gives me... That was never 3, 5. What was it? Sorry, 5, 9. I don't think I used it, but I will use it now. That's 9. That's 5. That's not the 9. That is the 9, and this is because it's not 6 or 9. This is just 7. That is 6. That is 6. That gives me 4. That gives me 7. I think that 7 was there for the taking because, you know, there was a bunch of things placed in here. Whatever this is. 3. 2, 3, 4, 8. So I still need to place 2 and 3. What about the 1 and the 1? So 1, 2, and 3 are still tough. 7. I got 7. This is now 2, 3. And a whole bunch of digits still. 1, 2, 4. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Incredible. Let me see if I can resolve it from this side. 4 and 8 and the 7 and 8 are not resolved. 3 has to be in here. Ignore the 4. This would be now 4, 7, or 8. It's not an 8. It's 4 or 7. Then I need another 4, 7 and something else. A 5, which can only be in here. And this is 4 or 7, and it's not 7. Okay, now we're making progress. 7, 8, 7, 4, 8, 2, 4, 6, 4, 6, 1, 3. I need a 2. I need a 1. 2 and 3 give me 3, 2, 2 and not, no, 2 and 6. 2. If I've not made any other mistakes, 6 for the finish. It deserves a lot more attention than it's received. 97% rating, solve counts of 98. Let's see if we can drive this up. Hope that you guys, first off, huge thank you to all of you for supporting this channel. Please continue to do so, and keep the feedback coming, because it will just keep on improving based on that feedback. Hope that you enjoyed today's anniversary special, and see you back for the next video. Bye bye for now.